Welcome back, people. Today's assignment, I have this outdoor shower, and you walk in here, and there's going to be a door here. It's a door that I'm making, but it's in the style of a gate, like you might see on your wooden fence. But it's a little more durable. If you could see these, it's a 1 inch thick treated pine material. So it's a door, but it's a gate. Stick around and I'll show you what goes into making this door in the style of a gate. Hope you like it. How we doing, people? Today we're going to be making a gate. This is going to be an outdoor gate for an outdoor shower. It's similar to a wooden gate you might see on a fence, but it's a little bit thicker material. Little, it's a treated pine. And real quickly, the way I went about, I knew the width I needed and I know the height I needed. This is that deck board that's 1 inch thick. And actually, when you first buy it and it's still saturated wet, it's like an inch and an eighth. But after it dries out, it's an inch, um, as opposed to a one by something that might be 3/4 of an inch. So I get plenty of that is long enough for my height, and I know the width. Actually, what I did, I divided that number by 7, and it gave me 5 and 3/16. So I ripped all of these down to 5 and 3/16, and it's going to be like a 1/4 inch large, which is perfect because then I could trim it down to make it fit my opening. I don't want to have it too small. Then I got to pad out the opening, and that starts to look undesirable. So, anyways, what I didn't show you is over on my table saw, you see the little strips, the rips. I took these deck boards and I first ripped them at, they come like 5 and 3/4 or so. I ripped, and they have a really like a 1/4 inch round over, and I wanted to eliminate that. So I cut that end off just barely on one end, and then I ripped the other end at 5 and 3/16. So there, and then ah, and then instead of having sharp edges on everything, I passed everything with my 1/8 inch round over bit on all edges, all the long edges, not the ends, because I can get those later. So everything's pleasing to the touch. It still looks kind of sharp, but it's got an 1/8 inch round over. It's not going to cut anybody. It's not going to feel like, oh, that's sharp. Why is it like that? So anyway, and then the next thing I do is I determine, is this side look better than this side? And sometimes they're pretty similar, and other times it's pretty obvious which is the face side and which is the back side. So I lay them all out, and then I put them together and see how they fit with each other, uh, both visually in grain and color, and then also some of them are a little bowed, a little crowned, and I may need to move them around to orient them to where they just fit better as a family in all aspects. Actually, visually, I didn't nail this one, but what I did nail is I had a few gaps and I moved a few boards around, and so now the gaps are very minimal, and I'm very happy with it. I didn't want to go to the extreme of getting the planer out. I'm not trying to laminate a tabletop. It's going to have a lot of movement. It's outdoors. It's in a shower at that, so it's going to get wet and dry. It's at the beach. It's going to get wet and dry. It's very humid. Um, so I orient them. I have a face up. I have a good side and a bad side. So I've since flipped everything. The face is now down. I laid this, I don't even know what you call this cross piece at the bottom. There's one at the bottom and one at the top. I come up at about 4 inches from the end and I clamp this into place. What I do then, I have marks on here. Uh, I could look at the square and see an inch. I want to drill holes an inch from the ends. And so I put some tape on here, like so, and I put marks. And it's not just 4 3/16, but it's an inch from that end and an inch from this end. And then also here's another thing. If you look at this seam of these two boards, that runs through kind of like there. I, I want I want my hole to be an inch down and an inch over, an inch up from this end and an inch over from this end. I lay this out drywall square and I put, let's get a good reading. Let's say we put 22 right on that mark. If I put this here and then put that on 22, then I could bring the speed square up to 23, and I don't just mark it, I bring it there and then I drill a hole and then bring it back and drill a hole. Then I go to 21 and drill like that. And so all of my holes are very consistent. They're consistent from this edge over, they're consistent from this edge over, and they're consistent, they're square, and they're presentable, and it's going to make for a very handsome looking gate. Okay, here we are. We got the two bottom rails installed, completely screwed into place. Now we need to put the cross section on there, the angled piece. And I know this is the bottom and that's the top, so it's going to stand up. So you always have the cross piece from, and this is the hinge side also. You always have the cross piece on the hinge side going up, down on the hinge side, going up away from the hinges. So I'm just going to put it in place, get it flush on the end there, and kind of like there somewhere. And it doesn't have to be exactly perfect with anything. I don't have my pencil. So can I mark it? I'm going to mark it. Stuff. I have these. So that's what we're going to be cutting. And this reminds me, I wish I had that track saw, that Festool track saw with the built-in short track on it. That's on my list of things to get one day. This happens to have like a, what is that? A 60 tooth blade on it. So it was like that. It was over there. Actually, that looks all very good. One thing I need to do on this top edge, I'm going to round it over like everything else is rounded over. So I can clamp this into place. Now, the way to mark these holes, I take a few of these leftover strips that are just hair over 1 inch. And what we're going to do, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to lay one of them down on this outside edge, one of them down on this inside edge. That represents 1 inch from each edge. And then I'll take this other one and I'm going to line it up with these screws here and the same corresponding screws on the other end. And just drape it over here. Then I take my Sharpie. Now mark that corner in that corner. And then I'll go to the next set of screws, that corner, and that corner. Next one here. This is a great little trick. Keeps everything with that 1 inch reveal all the way across the gate. So take these away and you see all the holes. So now we just drill the holes. So now when you come and look at all these, both of these screw holes are an inch away from this seam, which is this edge of the board. Then this 1 inch over here gives you these two screw holes, and so on and so on. And all the holes here line up with the holes up there. You got two sets here matching those two sets there, which match these two sets here. It makes it all very uniform and symmetrical. Now we need to cut this off, kind of like here. So I think you might know that the edge of the base plate on the circular saw is 1.5 inches from the left side of the blade. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make it just a fraction less than 1.5 inches, just so I don't overcut it accidentally. I'm going to clamp this square in place like this. Then I'm going to run this circular saw it's just a fraction hanging over, but I did not want to cut into here. And when I get out into the field, and then as I need to trim this edge, I'll trim it in the field to make sure it fits the opening very well. So I've clamped this level into place. The level's like 2 3/8. I put some 1/8 inch shims behind, and it's all, so you know the level's a straight edge, and it's all rather secure. So I can make that top cut. I want to put that 1/8 inch round over on this edge also. This makes for a nice finished edge. That's a door to an outdoor shower, which is essentially a gate. It is heavy, 5.5 feet tall. It's going to be lifted off the ground about a foot. It's going to have hardware on it. It's going to open to the inside of the shower, so the hardware is going to be on the inside. As you close it, you could latch it. It's only going to have 2 hinges, one here centered on this rail and one centered on the bottom rail. I've got some heavy duty 4.5 inch stainless steel hinges. They work well in the weather and the climate out here. So that's it. It's a simple construction, but it can be puzzling to some. Some people struggle with gates. So there we go. Thanks for sticking around. And we'll catch you on the next one. Don't forget, I've got lots of furniture plans, rocking chair, tall deck chairs. I've got a giant Adirondack chair, and I'm just wrapping up a plan for a lounger that should be live on the website, hopefully in a few days. Thanks for sticking around.